We good to go? All right. So, do you say you're the founder of the Great Unlearn, the host of the Great Unlearn, and do you have any other titles you like to go by these days, or
Well, it's funny you
for your
asked.
introduction?
Yeah, it's funny you asked that. I go. I have a founder of our venture studio, which is Unlearn Ventures, and but honestly, I was with a friend recently, and he had been posed that question, and what he said was, "I'm a Steve."
Yeah.
His name's Steve. He's like, that's the most identity box I would let someone put me in.
How did I know we were gonna go there? I had a feeling.
And that's it. It's like, I'm a Cal.
It's Cal.
And it's like, I try to put that in a box. That's fine. It's a much bigger box than podcast host, investor, all that. And when he said that, it's like, and it's a pattern interrupt for people. Like, you're a cat. Like, what's that? And it's like, yeah, like, let's explore like that question. So it gets out of the standard. It's what we know what to do. Yep. We're taught that, and it seems like the right thing, but it doesn't get people anywhere. You get to know a little bit about what they do, but it does put you in a box. Like, I know when people have asked me that, I've felt really small. Not because I'm not proud of the podcast or any of that, or because I'm not happy being an investor and being a trader back in the day. It's just that it felt like it wasn't at all like who I am.
Yes.
But it puts you in that box, and now unfortunately, they just look at you through that lens, just like we would for them.
You're just a painter. You're just a podcast host, you know? You're just a water guy, right? And this is actually going to be our intro. Thank you for joining us on episode 11 of Liquid Life. Today we are joined by Cal.
Yeah. And
I think it's important to start with that. And I kind of want to hear more about your experience with this, but this idea of the great I am. I am Preston. I am a child of the Most High God. I am all that I'm meant to be, and I am safe. I am loved. I am a whole. I am not just a podcaster. I'm not just an artist. I'm not just an entrepreneur. And everything you just said resonates completely with me. And I knew when I asked that question before we started, because usually we start with a kind of more formal introduction.
Sure.
I knew that was going to be your response. I had an intuition, right?
Yeah.
But that's because we've done a lot of the work and are continuing to do the work. And I'm curious to kind of hear your thoughts as we get into this first water. If you pass me your glass over there, slide it down.
I'll work on that. That was
You're gonna get really good
effort.
at it.
Yeah, that's good. Like, show people this is where I started, and this with Preston's guidance, I'm gonna really be able to dial this in.
But yeah, I just want to hear more about that I am, that identity in work, and how you are very successful. Basically in everything you touch, it seems like, from the outside perspective.
That's the key point.
Yes.
From the outside perspective.
How have you, and starting in finance, when it's so tied to your self-worth and success in the actual numbers, which are provable, which are seeable in this physical realm world, and this is how worthy I am. How have you been able to kind of begin that journey of breaking down those belief systems in this earthly dimension, realizing, oh, that's not really who I am. I am Cal. And it even goes beyond the name, right?
Yeah. There we go.
There we go. So cheers to this.
Cheers.
And I'll tell you more about this water here in a second.
You know, in 2017, October 1st, I was in Las Vegas at the mass shooting. The Jason Aldean concert is the Route 91 festival. And I was with a friend, and we were taking cover behind the tour buses as the shooting was happening. And in that moment, you know, as you said, from the outside looking in, there's many people that would have loved my life. Like, oh, you did it. And up until that point, I'm like, you overachieved in every metric that you thought was important. And in that moment, I was like super sad that it may end there. And not because it wasn't about my life ending. It was like, if it ends here, like, you weren't playing the right game. None of that stuff that you've been chasing, accumulating and chasing some more, none of that is coming to save you right now. And I didn't know right then that how profound an effect it would have on me and really just changing the course of my journey. But leaving there, I went on, it probably took me a year and a half to understand what I had been going through, but I went on this 18-month deep existential inquiry into like, why am I here? Because it's not for those things. And so I pushed all that stuff to the other side. Like, I'm not that. I want to be this other person that's enlightened, that is one with God, spirit, whatever. And I was following the footsteps of brothers that I had just met that were like a portal into that world. And they helped guide me into all these different practices, and, you know, whether it was plant medicine or meditation or breath work or cold plunge or fasting or looking at, you know, kind of the universe through a different lens, thinking about the work of Graham Hancock and morphic resonance and like all these concepts that I had no idea about that were fascinating to me. And it was like, oh, this is a world I'm not familiar with. And so I went deep into it to try to find myself. And I found out a lot. I found out that I could, like, as I got more curious, like, the load lifted from my shoulders. I didn't have to carry this idea that I needed to know something about everything. I needed to defend those ideas, those belief systems. It's like all that started to crumble away. Don't get me wrong, it was a long journey. I was still holding on to some of that even as I was kind of growing up through it. But what I found was trying on all these different suits, it allowed me to push the edges of what was possible. And like the more I just kept showing up, and the way I kind of talk about it now is like showing up to the altar, whatever your altar is. It doesn't need to be a physical altar, but just showing up, you know, asking for help. And for me, for years, I didn't even know what asking for help meant. And so it was really, like, to look back, it was really kind of funny and clunky. Like I hadn't really prayed until this fall.
Yeah.
The first time.
Right after we really met on Zoom for the first time.
At 53 years old was the first time I had ever prayed. And I had friends in the room when I had shared that. They're like, how have you not killed yourself by now? Because like without prayer? And I was like, so that was something that was outside of what I was comfortable with. And I think I just got a bit disenfranchised with Christianity, with just what I saw in Christians, you know, not as a judgment. Back then it was definitely a judgment, but today it just didn't resonate with me. And I understand that since then I've spent time at one church here in particular in Austin, and it was really profound for me because I could go there and I could get the lessons that resonated and I could leave the rest. Yep. And so I wouldn't throw the baby out with the bathwater. And so this spiritual journey was just opening me up to that nuance and that discernment.
There you
go. I didn't have access to that in a way that I do today. I wanted to try everything, you know, and being my partner, my wife Peyton, is like, I love that you're curious, but I don't know that you have the discernment on some of this stuff. And so she was scared. Like, are you caring? Are you aware that people are going to try to take advantage of you? And to be honest, to a certain degree, I might have been, but I was not discerning with that. And so it happened, and I got to learn from that. And it doesn't mean that she needs to stop caring and worrying about that. She's my partner. She loves me so much that she sees what I couldn't see. I see it now. I see it clear as day, but I didn't have the capacity for it. And so for her to continue to love me and show up for me in those times, the amount of grace that she's shown me, and just the way that we've navigated some really challenging times when I you know, honestly, a couple of years ago, I didn't know that we were going to make it. I don't think she knew that we were going to make it. And we kind of surrendered to that. And since then, it's been a slow process of just gaining trust with one another. And this isn't like, just to be clear enough, from like anything happened outside the relationship. It's just like, can I feel safe with you? Can I trust you that when like for her, when I am in my full feminine and it's big and expansive and explosive sometimes and it doesn't make sense, can you hold that? And there was for a long time, I couldn't hold that, and she knew that. And so it was, in a lot of ways, it was keeping her small. I wasn't meaning to, but I didn't have the capacity. Today, everything. I'm here for all of it, and she feels it. And we're just like, little by little, and it's getting bigger and bigger, but we're just giving each other opportunities to build that trust. And we're building something that is like, I mean, we're going to celebrate 25 years in a week from today. 25 years.
Congrats.
And I didn't thank you. I didn't think we were going to make it there. And I was sad, just honestly, because I knew there was something in her that was so special. My soul held on to sometimes it was a fucking thread that kept me in it. It was like, I knew that I had enough sense that whatever shit I was feeling with her, how much I resented and she would trigger me, I knew it was my work. I knew she was the mirror. Sometimes you want to fucking break the mirror, not physically, but you want to blame the mirror. And I would, but I would always land on, this is your fucking work. If you leave this relationship, you may have a real fun time for a period with someone else, but this shit's coming back.
Yep.
And will you ever find anyone like her? And it's like, it was a resounding no. I can't. I could see through all the bullshit that I was feeling and know that, like, this is worth fighting for, even if I didn't have much left in the tank. And so I don't even know what the original question was, but that's a bit of my journey, my unlearning journey. You know, I started the podcast as a way to share what I was learning, all these different, you know, modalities and these people I was meeting that were different than me, that weren't my avatar. And so I always felt like I was a bridge to bringing these people and practices and ideas and their journeys to people that identified more with me as the trader, the financial guy, maybe you're a lawyer or a doctor, like just kind of more in the mainstream. And so it was a way to bridge their medicine into that world and say, look, I'm taking this medicine, whatever the medicine is. And again, I'm not talking about plant medicine, but like they're sharing their gifts. This is how it's impacted me as someone who looks a lot like you. And this is how it's changed my life and opened me up and made my life easier. And it's made it a lot more difficult because I'm faced with the challenges of like the identity piece.
Yep.
What if you aren't any of those things? And it's like, that's terrifying because I've spent however many number of years we spent investing time, money, energy into that mask, those identities that we think are who we're supposed to be. And when we're confronted with that, number one, it is just that it's confronting. And a lot of people, and I understand it, but a lot of people turn away from it because it is fucking terrifying. It is the dark night of the soul. And they want to go back to how life was, where they know there's something more, but their life was pretty comfortable. It has its challenges, but it's pretty comfortable. And so the dark night of the soul opportunity presents itself, and they say, no, not right now. And maybe they never go to it. Maybe they come back to it and they're ready. I was ready, you know. Vegas opened me up to that. And so as I started to meet people that would confront me with that in a very subtle way through their journey, through their books or whatever, it just, you know, I had an experience in Sedona with some brothers, and a guy named Ted Decker was there, who's an author. Amazing man. And one of the things he said, imagine that you didn't have to be any of those things that you are trying to be. Like, just if you just were able to let all of those go. And I felt such a sense of ease, and just like everything was off my shoulders, everything. And then immediately it was like terrifying because there's no anchor. There's no life, no matter how good or bad. It's like, it's known. It was the unknown. And it's like just trusting. And I'm not sure what guided me then. It was just a trust in something greater than me, even though it hadn't even really been investigated by me. I just had seen it in other people trusting. It was almost like, okay, I don't feel it yet, but I trust these people in their experience, so I'm just going to trust who they trust. And it's like, it's okay to start. You got a baby step, and whatever your way in is, meditation, we all feel fucked up when we're trying to do it in the beginning. It gets better, and we take steps back. It's all part of us learning. And so just all these things we trying on, it's part of it. And sometimes it's awkward, and sometimes we feel like a fraud, and that's okay. We're trying this spacesuit on to see if it works for us. And there's some parts that work, and hopefully we throw out the rest. And when your partner sees that, they're like, who the fuck are you? You're not who there's some cool shit's happening, but then there's all this other stuff, so it's messy. And I just invite people to hold the space for themselves, for their partners when they're going through that they know there's something. It's like Neo. He knew it's like this splinter that you can't quite figure out what it is, but there's something that's not right. And you don't know, like, our society does not teach you how to investigate that. We have a completely different system that conditions that out of you. And so it's a remembering of who we were when we were super tapped into our intuition, when we were just who we were as little babies. And, again, as we grow older, all this conditioning comes in. And so it's just like being open to what that looks like, and allowing yourself and allowing your partner and your kids and your parents, whatever it is, it's just giving grace that they're not doing it to make your life miserable or to make a worse version of themselves. We're always trying to make a better version of ourselves. And sometimes the messages we're getting from Instagram or YouTube or whatever, or friends, are the messages that put us into these, these tough situations because we feel such a scarcity that we're not enough. We're told that over and over, bombarded with that. And we just want to know if we are lovable, and we do things that we think make us lovable, creating a successful career, making money, buying houses, doing all these things. In our society, that is held up as, yes, that's exactly what you do. That's success. And it's like, that's one measure of success. Go after it. Fucking by all means. Like, I don't know. Like, I think you just get a different orientation to life when you're actually able to achieve those things. I don't think you have to do that to go through the dark night of the soul, but I think go have your own experience with that and see if it fills your bucket. Yeah. And it may fill it up partially, and it may for a period of time, but I think eventually it just doesn't. And so just give each other the space to try on all these things, and just remembering, it's a cliche saying, he's doing the best he can with the tools he has, or whatever iteration. I just finally truly believe that. I thought that, but I didn't feel it for people. I would just override what I felt because I wasn't in my heart yet. And it was like, okay, he's just doing the best he can. And so I would try to let it go, but I would hold a piece of it. I fucking beat that thing down. A lot of energy to hold that in. Now that I've finally, again, after 53 years, have access to my heart, I know who I am. I know how to care for myself. I know what my needs are. I know how to ask others, particularly my wife, to take care of those parts of me so I don't feel like I need to take care of them myself. And that whole idea was not because of something that she presented. It was my own 7-year-old saying, Mom and Dad are working. I got to take care of myself. I got to grow up, and I can be self-reliant, and I can gather all these resources. And those are my superpowers. That's why I created all this wealth. And getting into my heart, I got to rewrite the story that, oh, my mom and dad sacrificed everything they could to make sure my sister and I had the best life they could provide. They sacrificed their emotional well-being. They were in a marriage that they arguably should have been divorced before I was even born. And they both did it unwittingly to the other. They both did it because they thought it was what was best for, that was what they were taught was best for the kids. And they sacrificed that for us. I wouldn't do that for my kids. We almost didn't a couple of years ago. Like I understand, whether they were conscious of it or not, like what was driving them to do that. And it is the most selfless thing I could ever imagine, I guess. And because I was able to see that, I had the deepest healing with my dad that was just like, I didn't know it was ever possible. I thought I was okay, just us having an okay relationship. And it just opened up everything for us. And then, not even realizing I had the same thing, a deeper wound with my mom. I got to show up for her and express all my love and just everything in my heart. And like, I'm sorry that I didn't see it, but I see it now. And I can't see you any other way, that this woman that sacrificed everything for me to make sure, in her words, that I was okay. She didn't even care that, like, have this amazing life. She just wanted to make sure I was okay. Like, it wasn't a high barrier to get over, but to her, it was everything. And so I just say that, like, just showing up at the altar with your intention of finding the better version, of finding who, like, loving yourself, like truly giving yourself that self-love, and just being patient. You'll get glimpses, you'll think you have it, and you don't, and that's okay. And you feel like you take steps back, and you are and you aren't. It's part of the journey. You keep showing up when it seems like, why the fuck do I keep doing this? I've been in this 5 years. I've done all the plant medicines. I've had the great men's work, and I feel like my wife and I are about to get divorced. And I know she's an amazing woman, but I can't see it. I can't feel it. Like, what the fuck is all this for? Am I just going to be stuck here? And I'm here to say, you keep showing up and let go of the how, you let go of the when, and you just have that be your prayer. And I just believe it will happen for you. It happened for me when I poured a lot into it, and I'd still be doing it today had I not had this, kind of breakthrough. So I feel like I'm just awake now. It's not a series of I feel like I'm awake, and I see it. I have so much love for everybody. And it's very grounded too. It's not like flower child, no offense to them, but like, I just know who I am, and I know what I've gone through, and that when I don't show up maybe as the best version of myself, I know that I was trying my hardest. And so when someone enters my space with an energy that doesn't feel like pure or whatever, I know they're trying. And they maybe see something in me that, in their mind, like, I can leverage this, it's a strategic thing or whatever. I'm okay with that. I know I have enough self-awareness and enough discernment to know how to handle that with care, and allow me to reflect back in a really subtle and compassionate way of, like, that whatever you're presenting just doesn't work for me, but I'm here in a different capacity. And so just to hold space for people and not get triggered. Like, this fucking guy just wants to use me. He's like, I don't think about things that way. I see, I've been there. And I know that, like, what you're doing, it's really hard for you to even come to me because it's not in flow. But you're just trying to do what's best for you, not in a selfish way. It's like there's something that's missing in your life, and you think, I might have one of the keys. I might have a little breadcrumb for it. And so you're, really, when you think about it, this person is in a really uncomfortable situation. They're coming to me, arguably inauthentically, trying to get something from me. So they're holding that, and they know that there's something there. They just don't know what it is, and they just have an idea of what it is, but it's not what they think it is. I'm there in a different way. And it just opens them up in a little way to, like, maybe I can go about this differently. And so I just have love for them. I just don't get in the weeds with them in a way that I would have in the past, and wouldn't have had the discernment, and would have, like, wasted both of our times in a sense. Not wasting time, because there's something to be learned there. But anyway,
Well, to me, that's
my soliloquy.
that's the Great Unlearn in 15 minutes, right?
Yeah.
And to me, you are a survivor of a near-death experience, right? For me, my story, my near-death experience or experiences happened when I was in my teens with drugs and alcohol and getting sober when I was 19. That was my near-death experience, therefore a rebirth. To me, since 2017, you've been on this rebirth, right? And that's the journey. We go through many rebirths. And the one thing that kept coming to mind during your soliloquy, as you say, is the saying that God is the great I am. And these mantras, I am safe, I am loved, I am whole, guiding, directing, controlling us and how we kind of operate in this earthly realm, right? Money, success, finance, relationship, this, that, the other. But the commonality between those three sayings, what everyone's really looking for at the core at the end of the day in our, human skin suits as spiritual beings, is the I am. And coming back to, the introduction, I am Cal, I am Preston. And I think the thing that I've been thinking about in the past 48 hours in particular, in this full moon in Austin and ceremony, is what does that mean to just be I am rather than I am Preston? Because I'm curious, do you know what Cal means? Do you know the origin of that name?
No.
Is that your given birth name?
No, John Michael Callahan.
John Michael Callahan. So what I'd encourage you is go, Google the meaning, the etymology of these names.
Yeah.
For me, Preston means priest-like.
Oh.
Douglas means of a dark stream.
Okay.
Right. So there in of itself is the human condition. And that was my brand's name when I was in fashion for many years. And I went by Preston Douglas because I had that very challenging relationship with my father. My last name legally is Boyer. Yeah. And I wanted to go by those first two, that human condition, right? And everything I work and touch. This painting, for example, called Sacrifice Atoned, Cal purchased it. And really, way more than purchased
really gifted.
It entered his life, right?
Yeah.
And this is his first time seeing this work. We had the grand reveal. I wish we had it recorded, but it was too intimate.
Exactly.
We recorded it in our minds.
You know what? That's exactly it. It was too intimate. So
yes.
I appreciate that because I had an experience over the weekend at the Health Optimization Summit where a well-known health and wellness personality was there, and he had his cameraman following around everywhere. And I thought, I'm not interested in talking to him because I can't have an intimate relation or conversation with him, because it's on camera. Like, what are we doing here?
Yep.
And I'm grateful for seeing that because I know that while it seems on the surface like a great idea to get content because people want to know, yes, and what are you creating for yourself for real value?
Yes.
You're missing out on getting into my heart and Michael's heart and other people because they know they're on camera. So they'll talk about some shit that people will be interested in, but everything's transactional, it's surface level. And so the fact that wasn't like, we know what was felt in the room.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget it.
Yep.
I mean, I had no idea. I'd seen this painting just in your studio, and you sent me pictures of it, and it had an impact on me. But it wasn't until you revealed it to me that I got super emotional. And I just think it's so interesting that your wife, Jacqueline, is that how you pronounce it?
Jacqueline.
Jacqueline, who doesn't listen to podcasts, had seen my podcast. She probably follows Kimberly.
Something like that.
Probably follows Kimberly Vanderbeek.
Yeah.
And Kimberly Vanderbeek came on my podcast, and we had an epic conversation. And she might not even follow her because her clip went fucking viral.
The light languages?
Yeah, and like people were just going bananas over it. And so Jacqueline listened to the podcast, and as she told me just now, she's like, I don't listen to podcasts, and I certainly don't tell Preston to listen to this podcast. And what's interesting is it's not even like, even in the context of that, like, listen to this podcast with a woman on it, not to just like just typically people like she would share like, oh, this man was really cool. I think you could get something from him, right? Like just hold that, people, that is like probably pretty common. So she shares this with you, and then what do you do?
Oh, well, we were listening to the podcast on our way to our midwife in Calabasas about maybe 3 months ago or so. And it was fascinating, you know, hearing the conversation and thinking about all these things that she was talking about, but also how you were asking questions, right? And
we're good? Do we have to retake?
No, it's okay.
we're live and direct in Austin, Texas.
This is how we. You don't have to on my account. I think it's cool. People are like, "This is real life. This is like, we make sure the audio is good. So when you guys listen to it, you don't bitch online like the audio sucks." I've had that a couple times. I had it in my Lance Armstrong episode. The audio was shit.
No,
and people were just motherfucking me for it. I'm like, you know what? Get over it. There was good content.
Well, shout out to AI Audio.
There we go. Yes, thank you for that. You're going to your midwife.
We're going to our midwife in Calabasas, which is such an LA saying. I like saying that and just recognizing how crazy of a saying that is, right?
And just to embrace it.
And to like say that and like picture that in my mind, like that's my life. But the reality of it is so vastly different than exactly what we were talking about before, what we kind of picture that as a sign of success, right? And listening to there and on the way back, and I'm like, man, this lady is super interesting. I was really interested in learning about speaking in tongues, and light language is very similar to that Christian practice and that mystical practice, right? And so I was open to all of these kind of out there things, plus 10 years of being involved in all of this. I am so interested and curious into learning from other people's experiences out there, as it may be, right? But it's how you were asking questions, it was how you were showing up. And to be honest, I've really been on this journey through becoming a father, those 9 months leading up to that, the years leading up to even conceiving our child Blaze, and then even more so in the past 7 weeks of having the child in my journey and getting more in touch with my masculine because of that challenging relationship with father, not having really what I needed in many ways in that regard. And just sensing that intuition from your energy in that podcast and how you were showing up in those regards made me reach out to you. And I'm like, hey, I really enjoyed this podcast. Would love to connect. Just that little moment, that God shot of my wife recommending this. She never recommends podcasts, right? And usually it's like I want to listen to dudes talk about horrible jokes, and like I love that, right? I love Austin for that reason. I know we love Kill Tony, right?
Yes, love Kill Tony. I listen to Bad Friends all the time.
Me too.
Yes.
And so at the same time, it's like I can have that, but also there's something deeper in there, right? Yeah. And I sensed that in you, and we chatted, and I wanted to share more about the water business and my journey with water, because I know you're very interested in health and wellness and pushing the ball forward in those regards, but it became much deeper. And on our Zoom call, I noticed...
By the way, I never say yes to those.
Really?
Never. So I don't want to get people's hopes up that you just ping me and I'm going to get on a Zoom call with you. I never do. I don't know what it was. I mean, I know what it was. It was so that we're here in this moment. Yeah. Just like, Jacqueline, listen, it's of course. And like, there was just something in the way you reached out. It just, you didn't want anything, but you felt like there was a connection, and you thought like, there's just like a little bit more here that I want to explore. And if you're open to it, cool. If not, all good. And it was like, I like this guy. Okay, let's do it. And I looked online, and you're an artist as well. And I'm like, okay, this is super cool. Like, let's see. And we had the Zoom call, and
there was a little album in the back, a vinyl record of this Lil Peep album, Hellboy, right? And this album was really integral when I was still living in Houston and I was painting. I listened to that album for a whole summer. I was depressed. I was sober, listening to this, active addict, making this really innovative, strange, dark, but insanely beautiful music. And although I wasn't living that life anymore, there was something so beautiful and appealing to it that appealed past the surface level kind of pain and suffering. And I think this painting is kind of a reflection of that. In, on the surface level, sure, it's an image of that album cover, which I always absolutely love, the New Jersey Devils. You have a relationship with hockey, so it kind of goes further down there.
The one guy from my hometown who made it in the NHL got drafted by the New Jersey Devils, Eric Weinrich.
Incredible.
Yeah.
And I know you just went back and played some hockey and did a good job.
I did an amazing job.
Did such a good job, you're doing it again, right?
Well, you better believe it. They haven't asked yet, but I know it's going to happen.
See? And it's that knowing, right?
Yeah. And when I say amazing job, it wasn't about the score. It was about what changed for me. And I haven't really shared it with you, but I just as an aside here, I've been playing hockey my whole life. Now, granted, I haven't played for 8 years, and I'm a goalie. I played at Amherst College in college, and so Division II. It was decent. I was decent, but never going to play professionally anywhere, not overseas, certainly not in the NHL.
I grew up on Amherst Street, so there's another coincidence.
Of course you did. Yeah, my roommate in high school was a Devils fan. So anyway, I have a friend of mine, Kelly Chase, who has been battling leukemia for the last couple of years. Kelly Chase played a number of years with the St. Louis Blues, an enforcer. The toughest guy I know. There may be tougher guys out there, but as far as people I know, the toughest guy I know. He's been battling it. And they had this charity event for him last year, and they did another one this year. It's called Puck Cancer. It's in St. Louis. He's a huge part of the community. He's a huge part of the alumni. Because they had the Blues team set, and they were playing against the Blackhawks. And so it's mostly Blackhawks that, play for the Blackhawks, but then there are other guys that played in the NHL that are just going to play on the team to make out the roster. And they didn't have a goalie. So a month before the game, Kelly calls me up, and he's like, hey, he goes, the Blackhawks don't have a goalie. It's like, fuck, you play goal. Do you want to play? And my immediate response is, of course, like, whatever I can do, like, I love you so much. Like, yes, like, I don't care what it is. Get off the phone. I'm like, holy fuck. I haven't played in 8 years. I certainly didn't play at the level those guys did. Like, all that shit started to come in. I haven't been working out. My cardio's for shit. I've got a month. I just sat with all that. And I saw all the lies in all of it. That I was going to get exposed because I didn't play at that level because I haven't been playing. I just saw the lie in it. And I just let go of it all. And I said, it's like one of the Hermetic laws. I've been really into the Hermetic laws, but one of the laws is to do the law of the opposite of what you would normally do. And just see what happens. Play on the opposite edge. And so I'm like, I'm going to do this. I'm not going to practice. I literally did not work out one day since then. I've been busy with other stuff. It's like, I don't need to work out. I had thought about getting ice time before the game because I had like a fantasy camp going on so I could get on the ice, take some shots, whatever. Absolutely not. First time I touched the ice was when the game started.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, I didn't know if my skates were sharpened enough. I didn't know any of that. I didn't get my equipment down from the attic to make sure I had all of it. And I know that they could take care of whatever I didn't have. But for an hour before my flight, I just fucking surrendered to the entire experience. I'm like, they're not coming there for you. Be present with this. Fast forward to the game. 3,000 people. My wife's there. I'm the only guy who didn't play in the NHL, let alone Hall of Famers and legends of the game that I grew up watching. And I'm playing goalie. I can't hide. Do you understand? I can't hide. But I knew that every goal I gave up, the home crowd was going to be fired up because I was the Blackhawks goalie playing in St. Louis. So it's like, okay, that's not a big deal. I'm not letting them down. And so just all these old stories, I just let them go. And I let the second shot in, and it was just like a little smile, like, okay, how did that feel? It's like, it doesn't fucking matter. Everyone's happy. The guys on my team, they don't give a fuck. One guy's apologized for making a bad pass. Like, they're just having fun. They know who I am. They know all I haven't played, and they don't care if I did play. And so I just had the experience. It was the most incredible experience I've ever had on the ice. At the age of 53, I was finally present again, where I may have been as a little child. I don't know. I don't recall. But I just kept looking up at the clock. And when I would do that in the past, it was like, okay, willing the time down to 0. Try to let up no more goals. It was the scarcity, like, go, go, go. Like, let's get through this. Let's get over this. And let's see how you did. Let's see what the results are. And it would come in. I was like, no, you're not, like, do the opposite. Like, be present. Look around. There's 3,000 people here. You know, I have 5 friends that I spend the summer with that are playing in the game. Like, so I have my buddies out there. I have these legends that I grew up watching play. They're here for potentially, this could be the last time I ever skate. I'm playing in the NHL right now in this moment. Can you just be present to that? And I just kept coming back to it. I would look up at the clock. There's 15 minutes left. This could be the last 15 minutes you ever play this game. Just be here. My wife is there. I would interact with her. Like, I felt all of her love in a way that I couldn't before because I was focused on being good. Like, okay, stay focused. Stop the shot. Get the rebound. Pass the puck. Whatever. I let all that go. It's just like connecting with her, feeling how proud she was to be my wife, to have me out there, and to just sense that, like, I was doing it differently. And so I just had, it fucking changed my life in a way that I could have never guessed. And if I had done any of the things that I would have normally done, it would have robbed me of that experience. You know, and one of the things that really helped me through, it's the Ho'oponopono prayer. Are you familiar with it?
Oh, yeah. Jacqueline put me on.
Well, so this is maybe a different version that you've heard, but I said it multiple times throughout the game. We were walking to the ice, and it was a very long walk through all the fans so they could get autographs and everything. Don't worry, I didn't give anybody my autograph. But they had bagpipes playing, and it was so incredible, emotional, and just like goosebumps. And I would, you know, as I was getting really hyped up, it's like, okay, come back down, because you want to also perform. Yeah. I'm a performer too, right? Competitor. And I would just say the prayer, and the prayer is, I've learned it is, I love you, God, and use whatever great spirit, whatever works for you. But for me, it's, I love you, God. I'm sorry I have not recognized your love and your divine orchestration in every element of my life. Please forgive me. I forgive myself. Thank you. And I probably said it 15 to 20 times throughout the game. In the locker room, like, it just brought me back to, like, thank you, just such gratitude, and just seeing, like, it bring me back to, like, this thing is all happening for you, this whole grand orchestration, just like I'm here right now with you. There was a grand orchestration that I see just parts of it, and it's incredible. So back to the story. So we get on the call, and in the background, I have a record player, and I have, like, where I keep some of the albums that I'm listening to at the moment are stored there, and I have the other ones kind of out of sight just for whatever reason. And this album cover happened to be there, and I haven't listened to that album well over a year. And I told you, it wasn't even my favorite album by him by listening. It was his, the one that has the bird. It's black and white with the bird on it or whatever. My daughter has there's a lyric in one of those songs that she wants to have as a tattoo, and so, like, that was my favorite song because I just really connected with her, and his music was like the one way that I could connect with my daughter when she was having a really hard time. And I understand why she was drawn to the music, because it was like giving words to what she was feeling. And I could be with her in that, in just sharing the music, and just understand. It was her way to communicate with me. When she was pushing me away, and I understood that, and I knew she needed that. And so when I saw this today, I mean, you were in the room, obviously. Jacqueline was in the room. I was overcome with so much emotion, much more than I just expressed there. Like I couldn't fathom how important this piece is to me. I just didn't know. I was excited for it to come, and she and I, my daughter and I, were excited. I don't think either of us understood that this was the thread that held us together when it was really, really hard. And so I just, like, gratitude doesn't even begin to describe, like, all of it for you, for Jacqueline, for, you know, for Lil Peep's work, like, you know, and I understand that people maybe don't understand his work, and he's just not for everybody. And there's, you know, for me and my daughter in that season, he was perfect.
100%. And I just felt called to actually add a title to this work. I made this work when I was living in New York, in my very first studio, 509 West 110th Street on Broadway, in 2020. And so COVID had hit, and I really started delving into my relationship with my past as fashion. When I moved to New York, my art and fashion practices had to become one due to a lack of space, 220 square feet. And this was one of the first fabric works that came out of that. It was the predecessor to the zipper paintings, which I'm most known for, I'd say, out of all of the works. But this work I titled Hellboy 2K20. And I make these paintings through a whole series of processes. They go from digital to physical, and playing with these different mediums in a way that, you know, how we use ChatGPT as a tool, right? And this work actually began when I was still living in Houston and got finished in 2020 in New York. But I retitled it Sacrifice Atoned. And so, you know, hearing more about your relationship to Little Peep and this painting, thinking about the sacrifice you put in to raise a daughter, thinking about the sacrifice that she's put in to grow up as a woman today, right? And what does atonement mean? And of course, it's can be delved into the etymology and biblically and in the Christian mythology. But the way I see it in very simple layman's terms is to make up for whatever that sacrifice was, to make it right. Really, these full circle moments. And so Little Peep himself is a kind of Christ-like figure, right? He's a martyr to the fentanyl crisis, to the disease, the epidemic of drug addiction. And he really embodied, I mean, him wearing the devil jersey embodied that. He manifested that in his life. Like, that's what he wanted. But at the same time, I really could recognize and see the humanity, the God in him through his art and through his presence. And a lot of people could too. And right, it goes back to the name Preston Douglas, priest-like darkness. Like, we all have that shadow in us. And to atone for that shadow, to atone for my sin, my flaw, for him, his death was in a way a sacrifice, but his music and his work lives on, which is the atonement in many ways. And so that, in addition to having my child, and literally I think 2 weeks within having my child, we were on that call and thinking about this painting, and the sacrifice that I've had to go through, that Jacqueline's had to go through, the red, the blood, right? The blessing by blood. And so thinking about these experiences, these deeply challenging, scary journeys where full surrender is the only option and resistance only creates more and more pain, man, that has been my lesson over the past 2 months. And the atonement for her sacrifice, the atonement for my sacrifice, and the baby, they're sacrificing a lot when they come into this world. Yeah. They're out of the womb. They're out of their safe space. They're like, where am I? What am I doing here? I can't talk. I can't communicate. I have no control over any of my bodily, right? And we've literally all been there.
Yeah.
And being able to kind of come to terms with that and the atonement and my masculine lineage and her feminine lineage and all the sacrifice that they've had to do, like we started the podcast with, and the atonement through our decisions as parents now, decisions that you've made as a parent with how you were raised, etc. All kind of comes together in this work.
I love that. I love that the title is so obviously perfect. There's been so much atonement for both, my daughter and I, that made it all make sense. And when you're in the sacrifice, you don't know it's going to. Hopefully you have trust that it will, but you don't know it's going to. And so for us to fully embody that, I think is also part of his atonement. It's like having these little threads that carry on beyond his life here, and that how he inspires and connects and is a bridge for that atonement for people. It's like I can't imagine how many lives he's impacted in that way. And I just love the title. I love that you found his work. I love that it started in Houston and you finished it in New York in a really challenging time. And so that's all part of it's all part of the messiness that we are both. And as we start to resist, right, what we resist persists. So if you want to resist the dark stream, it's going to get real fucking dark, real dark. And so to be able to hold that we are both of those things, that's where the alchemy is. That's where the magic is. That's where the medicine is for people. And when we're going through those periods and we are resisting and we're not quite to surrender, that's okay. Like, we have to go to the edge of our resistance until we've got no more resistance left, and that all we can do is surrender. And so sometimes it takes that for us to get there, and it's okay if that's what it takes. Sometimes we're like, all right, this is a fucked up situation, I just need to let it go and surrender. That's cool. It's kind of nice. But when you get to full on surrender, like, I literally have no other resources at my disposal to avoid surrendering. And then it just kind of takes care of itself. And there is always a blessing on the other side, because we always come back to think about all the seasons, all the things that have happened that have been really hard in your life that felt like they were the worst. At some point you came back to a place that felt really good. And so you always came back. It may have taken a lot longer than you would have wished. You may have gone a lot deeper into that abyss than you would have liked, but you always came back to this place of some sort of equanimity, like, okay, life is good. I'm okay now. I'm safe. I'm okay. We may go back into those places. That's okay. That's what helped me. In the fall, I started to feel some of that. And I literally would say to myself, you always come back to a place that feels normal, good, whatever the title is, it'll happen. Just be with what this is. What is this trying to teach you? And that's been my growing through the process, is that I can identify the things now as they're happening, the challenges, like, okay, this is something that's here to teach me, so I can kind of let go a little bit. I still don't know what the lesson is, but I know that there's something coming through, and I'm meant to go through this crucible and just allow it, not passive surrender either. It's like active surrender, like I'm here for it. What am I meant to learn? And again, I want to be clear, like, if you go through passive surrender, I've done plenty of that. That's part of it too. You need to experience that. I did that in my plant medicine ceremony, my first ayahuasca experience. I thought I was surrendering. It was very passive. I got run the fuck over. Yeah. And that was the only way I learned that active surrender is something very different. It's very present. It's very grounded. Find your breath. Say a mantra if you need to. Lean in to the medicine. And so that has been something that, since I've had that experience, I've carried just in my life, in my relationship with my wife. Like, if it gets a little wonky, I was absolutely passive before, but today I find my center. I get grounded. I find my breath. Okay, that makes sense. They're all important, but the most important thing I feel like for me is to lean in, because I would turn my back because I was just afraid I was in trouble.
Yes.
That little boy came out.
Me too.
And now he knows it's safe.
Yep.
She keeps showing up to show me that it's safe. And I keep challenging her, not on purpose. It's just my little boy that's like, okay, let's see how she reacts to this. And she keeps showing up in spades. Like,
Yeah.
I got that and so much more. You have no idea the capacity I have. And it's like she keeps showing up that way.
100%. And prayer can be a very active form of surrender also. And that is one thing that I'm thinking of in my prayer life also, because meditation oftentimes is thought about as listening, and prayers about talking, right? And it's about conversation with God, with spirit, whatever you call it at the time of your spiritual journey. But and one like kind of trite thing around this that I had one of my pastors on for one of the earlier episodes, that there's a reason why devil is one D away from evil, and there's a reason why good is one O away from God.
Okay.
And he was like, I haven't even thought about that.
I had never heard that.
Right. And so when I got into AA 10 years ago, they were like, God is good. That saying, I mean, it literally is good, right? It's not like right. And that was like okay, like I trust some sort of good energy in the world, and I'm able to put my faith in that. So that was really kind of eye-opening for me in my spiritual journey, that opened up a lot of doors, because again, very resistant to Christianity or formalized religions, but leaning in and surrendering, taking the things that I resonate with and leaving the rest. That's all of life. That's water, right? Yeah. That's art. That's music. That's part of the human experience also.
Yeah. Well, by the way, I want to interject here because I kind of hijacked the conversation. Like, we're here to also talk about water.
Yeah, we have like we can get through all of it in 9 minutes,
well,
Cal.
I just want to make sure we do. Let's see. This
Okay.
lightning round.
So, but you know what? That was a form of surrender, right?
Absolutely.
And
that was on your, like, we got to do this, and you completely let that.
No,
if we didn't talk about this, you were okay. Yeah. And I just wanted to acknowledge, like, I also want to talk about this because I think this is really important work you're doing. So, like, let's create some space for that as well.
Amazing. So this first water we tried, the only reason why I'm having a plastic bottle on here is because this is one of the most incredible waters in the world. It's a 5,000-foot well, Wildcat exploratory oil well that ended up coming back with an insanely large aquifer with some incredible water. It's 500 million years old. There's no deeper drinking water in the world, and it's in Tennessee.
Okay.
Right. So this water that we just drank is 500 million years old, untouched by humankind.
Can't wrap my head around
right.
that.
So really talk about getting in touch with who we were, if we even were back then.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So that was Planet H2O. They're awesome. Really unique water. Now this is Zagori. This is a sparkling spring water from Greece.
That's my guy. I was wondering about that.
Got some photos coming in for the water testing component. I've never had this water before.
Ooh.
So I'm excited to try it. Usually we'll test the TDS level, but I'm going to
do
work
on your slide, by the way. There's 2 short slides.
You know what?
You were bragging on that earlier.
I haven't been to a bar in a long time, so I'm going to blame it on that.
Okay. Next one, though, I just need a little more elbow grease into that.
It might end up in your lap, but you're a goalie, so you'll be able to catch it.
It might go 5-hole.
Bit acidic. It has there's some sort of minerality in here that isn't as common for sparkling waters. I'm really curious to see what that is. There is some sodium. There's some bicarbonate. Let's see. There's definitely high level of calcium on here too, but spring water is under a TDS typically of 250 milligrams per liter.
Yep.
So total dissolved solids, or what is actually in your water. Martin Rees says water's not just water. Most people think that water is just water and you drink it and it's good. Spring water is usually in between that high 100 to mid 200 level of total dissolved solids. So the minerals in here. For a mineral water, it has to be over that 250 milligrams per liter. So this is marketed as a spring water.
Okay.
And so that mineral composition, minerals are electrolytes. They are the same thing. Electrolytes are just a way to market minerality to people.
Yeah, of course.
And there's a bunch of purified tap water that you buy at Costco or the grocery store that is electrolytes for taste. Those electrolyte levels in those water are under 100 usually. They're usually like 18, 20, 40 smart waters. So you're not getting really any minerals in that water. They do it for taste because if water is distilled, it has nothing in it. It doesn't taste great, right? You want the sodium You want the potassium, the magnesium, the calcium, the bicarbonate to have some quality of water for your palate to actually taste anything, right?
Yeah.
Water by itself is inherently a solvent. And so what we're trying to do is educate people, entertain people around water. And everything we talked about for the first hour of this podcast has everything to do with water on a much deeper level, right? And so there's kind of 3 things we focus on with the water that we're building in our business is the actual container, the vessel, right? You talk about this vessel. Well, in this physical form, glass is definitely the best vessel that we have available because the water is a solvent. It's not leaching in microplastics or aluminum from a can, which is also lined with plastic, or the plastic bottle. But it's also what's actually in the water, right? And so that's our second focus is most people, again, think water is just water. It is not. And there are definitely superior waters, living waters. These are all living waters, so they come from Mother Nature. Pachamama is the recycler, not humans, right? Yeah. And, we can kind of be in control or attempt to with purifying water, but if you really think it on a super macro level, like all water is recycled in some capacity or not. It just has it been 500 billion years, or has it been 5 years, or has it been
they're not
5
making
days?
New water. Every water that we touch has been around forever. That's just such a mind fuck. The air we breathe has been here forever. Anybody in the history that you think is cool, you're breathing the same air.
Yep.
Like it's just.
And that's the third component is that intention around water. What is water? What can it do? What is the potential of water? And all these people who are studying water being basically a computer and it being code for humanity, for our bodies, for our cells, for our memory. You can imbue memory and energy and frequency into water and what it does in your body. And eventually, through our fundraising efforts and through our products and our launches and our actual scientific testing that we'll be doing around what really is water, we're going to be exploring all these kind of out there woo-woo spiritual things, exactly what we talked about, and putting that energy into the water and what happens, how does it change? And people call it, selling snake oil. I love essential oils. They're game changers, right?
Agreed. Yes,
so
every day.
That's okay if you don't believe that, or if you're not interested in it. It's not for everybody, but the physical components, drinking out of glass and having great quality living water with an amazing mineral composition, there's really no denying those being good things.
You're going to try to deny it. It's okay. It's part of your journey.
Yeah.
You'll eventually come around, hopefully for your sake.
And with plastic, I will say this is, if it's coming from Fiji, which is a great quality water, but it's traveling a long way and it's heating up. And that's the real problem with plastic and how long it's stored in there. How long does the solvent of water actually have to dissolve whatever it's stored in? These are things, if you're getting something that was bottled in a plastic bottle yesterday and you're drinking it today and it's more local, like that's okay. At Barton Springs, you can't bring glass in, so there's specific use cases for plastic. My likelihood to bring a glass bottle to the gym is significantly lower. But there are future solutions, and investing in that new tech and educating people and making people aware and incentivizing people to actually, test it out and see what it's like, as well as us on an actual product side of things.
Yeah, and I love when you talk about intention, is that the first thing that comes to mind is, and these guys are incredible at marketing. I don't know the quality of their water. You can certainly speak to it, but it always occurred to my wife, like Liquid Death, our kids liked it because it was cool.
Yeah.
And she's like, I am not down with the message. It's not like she's some Christian, but she's just like, what is it like? Water is information. So it carries that signature. Like, what are you trying to? And so, unfortunately, when I go to Rogan's Club and watch that's what they have there. And I don't, like you, I don't drink. So, and there's a 2-drink minimum. So sometimes, I'll drink it, but I try to, now I know I just say my prayer over it and just let it go.
Yeah. Yeah, and you can drink it and you can still be great, right?
Yeah.
But you're saying that prayer over it and you're aware of it. And so it's different when you're aware of it and you're able to change the intention in your body rather than people who are just kind of mindlessly drinking. And sure, ignorance is bliss in some capacity too. Yep. We will be the next official water of the Joe Rogan Experience and the mothership. Yes. I have no doubt in my mind, but it's about becoming aware of that. And it's just kind of a matter of when in my mind with that. But then again, maybe it won't be, and that's okay too.
You got to let go of the how and the when. And I got on Rogan a couple weeks ago, not as a guest, but as a clip from, I think the
the laser.
The DMT laser with Chase Hughes. I was on Rogan. My voice, my fucking mug was on Rogan. It's like, I knew I was going to get on Rogan. I knew this years ago. I just didn't know how. I didn't know when.
Yeah.
And when it happened, it's like, there you go. You can't put into a box what it's supposed to be, me sitting across the table. That may happen.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. That's how shit can happen if we just let it be. Just throw it out to the universe and let it do its work.
Yep. That's, we can be in command, we can't be in control. And that's kind of what I'm really learning, those lessons right now, to the best of my ability. And speaking life into the water, we become what we put into our bodies, and water is the most essential part of human life. Why are we putting death into our body? Why choose death when you can have life? Why choose death when you can have life? And the actual quality of the water is great. They were sourcing from the Swiss Alps for their first run. That became too expensive. They have a spring source in the hills of Virginia or West Virginia. But then the aluminum can, man. I mean, I would drink out of a plastic bottle a million times over than any aluminum can, because that aluminum, if there's any scratch through the plastic layer, or if that can has been sitting for a long time and it leaches through the plastic layer and starts getting the aluminum is a severe neurotoxin. I have this chronic nerve pain. If I drink out of an aluminum can within an hour, my tooth is literally hurting.
Whoa, that. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So sorry about the aluminum can thing. And all these big companies are investing heavily into aluminum canning because aluminum is basically negligible expense, just like municipally sourced tap water, which most brands are using. And so you just become a marketing budget.
Yes.
So that's my very quick diatribe on aluminum, and the future is glass. Ooh. So we're getting cut off. And yeah.
Is there anything else?
Well, these are two other waters, one from France and one from Mineral Wells, Texas.
Let's talk about these.
Okay, well, these are custom bottles that I'm creating in my studio, recycling bottles of water that I'm drinking and that I'm actually physically, personally praying over. These can't really be used as actual water containers because there's paint on them, but just exploring the nature, the artistic nature of water and what happens when you pray over a vessel. And to me, they're artistic drafts that I'm making by hand in my studio that will eventually become these one-of-one handmade bottles that we'll actually be putting our water in and selling to people more as art objects, collectible things. But just taking it into what I can control, which is recycling these bottles and making them by hand for now. And they're just really kind of sketches for the future of Liquid Life Wellness Water. Yeah. So I'd love to give you one.
It would be an honor.
If you'd like to choose one. And
I feel like this one chose me. It's got a beautiful feminine quality to it. And I just feel like in everything we spoke about today with my wife and my daughter, and I have two sons, that's a whole nother podcast, and they're incredible and amazing, but I just feel like this really honors them.
Well, maybe we'll do it on the Great Unlearn part 2. So catch us on the next one. Cal, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah.
I learned so much from you. You were a great father. You're a great man.
Thank you.
And I'm excited to just be friends with you and be on this journey of my fatherhood. I texted him like, can I call you about some fatherhood questions sometime? He's like, yes, you're welcome to call me anytime. We're going through it sometimes, It is talk about a great unlearn.
Yeah, it does. I mean, they truly are our greatest teachers.
Wow.
It takes us a while to understand that, but they're really there to be our mirror to where we don't feel safe and where we're afraid for them. And we act out. It's like we're just scared. And it's okay to be scared. And it's just like, what am I scared of? And then just to play with that. So yeah, I'm here for all of that, brother. Yeah,
thank you so much.
This has been like so amazing, such a gift, and thanks for giving me an opportunity to share a bit of the journey that I've been on. It's been wild and fun, and it's never felt easier. And so I'm here to say that after 53 years, it can actually get easier.
I love to hear that. Give me hope, brother.
Yeah,
awesome,
love you, brother.
Thank you. Love you too, man.
Yeah, thank you.
Catch you on the next one. Check out all the links below for Cal's podcast and everything he's up to. Peace.
Hell yeah. How good was that?